Well done, that's very generous. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to crack on and we're going to get two guys up on stage here who graced the Hong Kong Sevens for many, many years and for both New Zealand and Scotland, and were two of the greatest players ever to play for their country. So first up, a man who won the Leslie Williams Trophy not once but twice in 2000 and 2001, was a key member of the successful New Zealand Sevens squad of the early 2000s. Away from Hong Kong, Karl won the gold medal at the 2002 Commonwealth Games and is the 8th highest try scorer in Sevens history. He now commentates on the World Rugby Sevens series and hosts a weekly rugby show in New Zealand called This Given Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Karl TeNana. And next up, from Scotland, he's the 3rd highest point scorer in HSBC World Rugby Sevens Series, having scored 1,345 points over 58 World Rugby competitions, captaining Scotland from 2009 to 2014. He's one of only 13 people to score 1,000 points in international rugby in 15s and 7s. Outside of the series, he's played in 3 Rugby World Cups, 2 Commonwealth Games. Away from Sevens, he's played over 100 matches for Glasgow Warriors and represented Scotland 9 times. Please welcome Colin Gregor. Well done, Colin. Yeah, take that. Okay, boys, well, thanks for joining us, and just great to be back in Hong Kong. Karl, start with yourself. Your memories of Hong Kong Sevens?
Yeah, right from the get-go, you know, like, we've seen the big fella, we've seen him on stage here in 95, and Cully ripped it up in 96, and back home, Hong Kong was always the premier tournament and continues to be the one and only. You know, what I equate it to is like Wimbledon. You know, it's got that history, it's got that mystique about it. And this year was the first time I've been back in, well, my last year was 03. So I've been a long time between drinks, but just this year been in a different capacity, lads. You know, nothing's changed. Just walking into Hong Kong Stadium, it's always been my favourite. And then just going out there and seeing the place, and nothing's lost on me. Like, I love the place and always have been, and I'm pretty lucky. Like, my first year was the last year of English rule, and I'll tell you, the parties, as you know, were pretty awesome.
Yeah. Colin, why is Hong Kong so special?
Well, primarily because of the crowd. The atmosphere that's generated makes it so special. But I guess that comes from the fact that it's been long running, it's well established, it constantly evolves as well. That it's not a case that, obviously, the formula they have works, but there's a constant tweaks, that the development of the South Stand, just the craziness basically of the South Stand, but also it works well with the setup of the stadium and how all the corporate boxes are sort of, they're removed from that, but they have their own sort of parties as well. And as a player, the first time I represented Scotland was at Hong Kong, and I still remember that coming up the hill around the corner, and all of a sudden the stadium's just towering over you, and it was the Friday night, so it's dark, it's lit up, the hairs in the back, they're standing up now, sort of just thinking about it. It's a really special place, and when you first run out onto that pitch and the place is going bonkers, it's incredible.
It must be incredible when you're coming up in the bus to play a game, a serious game, and you bump into 3 minions, 2 Teletubbies, a Power Ranger, and a condom. I mean, how do you keep your mind focused to what you're there to do, to entertain all of us? But how difficult is it when all that's happening around you?
Well, I think you just have to embrace it. That there's no way you can be switched on and focused for the entire day. So you have to, when you turn off, you have to soak it up. You have to embrace what you see, and then when it comes to game time, I suppose that you're in the changing room beforehand. You then have the magic of warming up at one end of the pitch, and it is, as the weekend progresses and you do it in front of the South Stand, there is a noticeable smell of booze coming from, and then you look up there and you see more kind of people with their backs turned because they're just all chatting away. And back in the day with the little sponge rugby balls that would just used to get lobbed at you when you were warming up. So I guess you just know that that's part of Hong Kong, and so you pick the balls up, you lob them back in, but at the same time, you're still focused on what you're going to do, and you're in a real privileged position, so it's then just sort of making the most of that opportunity.
I just want to add to that, like, one of the most out-of-it things I've ever seen as a football player, we were coming up to the stadium, and this guy, he was, I swear, full suit and a condom. Like, any time of the week, any time of the year, you're probably locked up in the asylum, but it's Sevens week in Hong Kong, everyone's, Yeah. But that speaks volumes for the way and the vibe that Hong Kong is, you know.
Carl, we just watched some the amazing footage of the great man, John Olomo. You knew him, you played with and against him, no doubt, many times. Just your own personal thoughts, if we could.
Yeah, really tough to be fair, Andy. I mean, I was sitting at the airport coming over here and got a call from the lads just saying, have you heard about the big fella? And the Sevens boys, like, we always have a good joke of that, and I thought they were taking the piss. You know, and the calls continuously were coming through, and I said, oh shit, something's actually going on. And I rang Rushy, and he just come out of a conference, and he just heard the word as well, you know. And yeah, no, it's a really tough one. And I suppose for me personally, like I played with Joe or against Joe for a long time at school. We had traditionals year in and year out, and that's the first time we crossed paths, and obviously playing with the Sevens, and I was lucky enough to be the captain when Rushy got injured after the World Cup, and he was my roommate. And yeah, it's just I suppose for me the cool thing is, like, the last time I caught up with the big fella was here in Hong Kong, and obviously that's where internationally he really took it to another level. And to see him this year being here amongst the boys with Rushy and Cully and Campo, and that, obviously he respected a lot. Seeing him enjoy and being back in that space was something really cool for me. And I suppose for me, it's really just my last memories and talking to him and being in the hotel and just like this, being in the room and talking a bit of smack and the way he was, you know, is obviously a really cool dude. And I think that's probably where I get a bit of solace.
I think you know, he changed rugby, as we know. I think he influenced and impacted the game probably more than any player ever in the history of the game. And I think what we see now, what we've been watching recently in the World Cup, was because of what Jonah did back in '95 or '94 here, but '95 in the World Cup in South Africa. And just a great player to be around, I have to say. And I'd never played against him for a number of years. When I'd watched world-class players try and tackle John Olomo and all fail. And I first played against him in 2000 in the South Island, New Zealand, Dunedin, the first test, Scotland against New Zealand. And I went to see Ian McGeechan, our head coach, and I said, look, Geach, I've watched all these great players try and tackle John Olomo. What's the best way to tackle Lomo? He said, Andy, you come in from behind so he doesn't see you. I said, oh, so very well, but what happens if I'm coming in from the side? Then you hit his hips, draw down his legs, tackle. But what happens if he tries to hand me off? Then you duck underneath his arm, grab his shirt, pull him down. But what happens if it's one of those skin-tight shirts and I can't get hold of him? Then you dive at his feet and hope that he falls over you. I said, okay, but Ian, what happens if John Olomo is running straight towards me? He said, then Andy, then you bend down, you pick up a handful of shit, you throw it in his eyes. I said, Geach, how the hell do you know there's going to be a pile of shit behind me?